They just don't make them like this anymore. A gameplay focused shooter with a comedic edge just seems like it shouldn't work, but it really does.
They discovered the wheel. Clever humans.
Especially as we don't really get comedy in a lot of our major games. Well, bar those brilliant South Park RPGs anyway. But combine comedy with one of the best arcade shooters out there, up until the point of 2005, and well, ever since, and you have a game that holds up like no other.
All in one. Skullbuster.
This was also an era where players could really expect a whole bunch of new features with a sequel. Sure, this was TimeSplitters once again, but now, refined. Don't get me wrong, TimeSplitters 2 set a lot of groundwork, but I really think Free Radical hit their high point here. For example, we had fully animated reload actions now, blood was a thing, and nearly every weapon was redesigned. Map Maker was expanded on even more, and there was no less than 150 playable characters now, plus a wider array of new maps to play with, as well as some old classics. And don't worry, Chinese made the cut. Yes, some multiplayer modes are subsequently cut, but they really weren't missed at all, and they more watered down the experience of multiplayer anyway. When you really think about it, it isn't often that a series, or an overall franchise, gets to end on a high. Well, not since trilogies are out the window, because those fronting the cash always want more. Why just make 3 of the thing when you can make 6, or 10, or hell, several a year, until the kernel of what made the idea so great isn't even there anymore? Or water it down to such a degree that it's not special or unique. Now I realise this already sounds like an old man shouting at clouds, but just look at what gets greenlit in the game and movie spaces. The box office is in the toilet at the moment. That isn't to say that indies aren't holding up their own though, because they really are, especially in the survival horror genre. And then looking at games like Trepang 2, that used to be what got the big budget. Now that's also relegated to the indie space. I'm just trying to point out the fact that publishers like EA wouldn't front the cash for this anymore. For what they were trying to achieve, Free Radical had finally got there. TimeSplitters Future Perfect is refined. Like any blacksmith worth their salt, Free Radical spent years hammering away at the formula until they perfected it. After having almost spent a decade with the series, this is the sort of thing players would come to expect, with a bunch of trilogies popping off in the mid-2000s and in the early 2010s, with a lot of the final games being worth a wait. Gears of War, Halo, Uncharted, and even Mass Effect to an extent. And all these trilogies have something in common. They came out in record time, especially compared to the industry now. Just look at their follow-ups or what the studios would pursue after. They either flopped, were mid, or took a whole generation to emerge. Something was really lost towards the 7th generation of video games. I don't know, by the end of that generation, it seemed like a bunch of the big studios started chasing devs like Naughty Dog, which turned the industry into a graphical cinematic arms race. But that really is a topic for another video, when I eventually cover one of my favourite games of all time, which is the main culprit for this and a bit divisive these days thanks to its sequel. Winding back to TimeSplitters, maybe we shouldn't be bummed that this series is gone. It has been 20 years by this point, the year in 2025 in which this video series was made. I, like so many, wish we got that mystical TimeSplitters 4, but thanks to current day business practices, it doesn't look like the rights holders can get the numbers to work for what they want. But then again, the Embracer Group has barely fucking stayed afloat since they gobbled up so much IP, only in a hope to get investments from people with more money than sense. They even had the license to make games set in Middle Earth, but couldn't even get that going. And if you ever look at the list of IP they held, it's a real treasure trove of the past. And with all the games they planned to get going, they would have just cannibalized each other, because we don't have enough time to play the games that are out right now. And that's not accounting for marketplaces being flooded by slop every day. You know the guys that cancelled TimeSplitters 4? They had to split into 3 separate entities: Asmode, Coffee Stain and Friends, and Middle Earth Enterprises, and Friends? Why does Middle Earth need friends? It's all a bit of a mess, and for those interested, Steve Ellis does lay out bullet points to what went wrong, documenting the rise and fall of Free Radical, both times, over on GameIndustry.biz. But hey, at least we got Future Perfect, and even more recently, all 3 TimeSplitters games on modern hardware. So at least they won't be lost to time, unless we all get EMP'd and then everything's gone. And we all get shipped off to fight in the machine wars to come. Like so many games or series locked in legal limbo, much like GoldenEye 007 in the past years. Going back to playing all these games for the retrospective has gone to remind me how special this franchise was. Not saying I forgot or anything, but you know, you got to replay these once in a while to remember. Hell, it had been almost 20 years since I played TimeSplitters 1 when I went back and played that, but 2 put Free Radical on the map, meaning they had the clout to escape IDOS for the big leagues, with EA fronting the cash for the 3rd game, and sadly the final installment. But back in the day, this seemed like the right move to take. IDOS didn't really push TimeSplitters 2, and those over at Free Radical thought EA would make a real difference. And they did, but not enough for EA. And we all know EA aren't afraid of binning off a studio if they don't work out. Hell, BioWare are only around because they made Mass Effect at this point. Like Square Enix, they're rarely ever happy with the results of their titles. But then if you get deluded and think every game is going to make the money of FIFA and Madden, well, I guess I can see their point of view. Just a little. Like, how did they not see the promise of Dead Space remake? And why was a follow-up not greenlit? That series could have seriously rivaled Resident Evil in the modern age. But it's in the bin, I guess, so let's just forget about Dead Space remake. Dead Space is dead. And I'll always blame Dead Space 3 for that. I hate that fucking game.
Is there a garbage chute? Trash compactor?
Yeah, there is.
If you can't have viable cards in Ultimate Team, or whatever, then I guess EA is just out of the video game business for now. Well, apart from their odd side projects here and there, the EA of then didn't get to kill Free Radical or TimeSplitters, but they wanted to change it for sure. And at some points in this game you can almost see that, as EA does what EA has done forever now, chase trends. Devs have gone on the record to say that execs from EA wanted this one to be a lot more serious, but those at Free Radical somehow negated this corporate minefield. Somehow, and then they gave us this true diamond of a title. Just looking at the first level or one set in the future, this seems like what EA wanted, and my guess is what the devs showed EA so they could get to the fun stuff, like the romps with Harry Tipper and Jo-Beth Casey. But most of the levels have the charm that Free Radical is known for by this point.
Cortez, this is hardly the time.
And some levels being a bit more serious and muted and drabby and dark and dim, they're barely low points. They're just a lot more noticeable when EA are fronting the cash. And while sure I might love this game more than the prior one, you can clearly see that TimeSplitters 2 is basically all Free Radical, with them only getting help with the cutscenes, whilst 3 has something stripped away, to be more appealing to a wider audience. Sometimes you do need to find the Free Radical charm within a level.
The miners broke through into a chamber and found what the boss has been looking for.
What, they found this crystal stuff?
Yeah, apparently the crystals glow with some weird inner light.
What, like a lava lamp?
No, Victor, you damn fool!
After TimeSplitters Future Perfect, they would go to strip everything away that made their games unique, with the now infamous haze. I won't get into that game as it requires its own video entirely. I've not played that thing in so long, I can barely remember what happens. I just know there's like nectar that goes into them and they get angry or see things differently, a bit like the Pyro in Team Fortress 2. So as I've done with the prior 2 games, I'm going to take a look at this game in a pseudo-retrospective type way, recounting what it's like to get the platinum and seeing every little nook and cranny in this game. Yes, that meant going through challenge mode and arcade league once again, and some of them here are a little bit more tricky. Anyway, I'm Ben Roy, and join me as I take a deep dive into the third and final game in the TimeSplitters trilogy, TimeSplitters Future Perfect.
No, don't! Get down!
The list consists of 8 bronze trophies, 10 silver trophies, and 7 gold trophies, which means Future Perfect has the most of any of the trilogy. And these trophies are a lot more robust, with there being even more miscellaneous trophies. As a layman who's never been involved with game development, but as someone who's sunk in a hell of a lot of hours into them, I can only guess there were more trigger points for devs to pop trophies in this game. That being said, looking at the miscellaneous trophies, I can't help but wonder what could have been if these games just had a bit more budget when it comes to porting all 3. Like you could have trophies based on the new driving mechanics, or pop when you beat a mini boss.
I'm gonna need therapy after this.
Hell, even blasting away zombies across all the modes. This could have given this list an extra edge, but please never go to the lengths of Dead Rising or Left 4 Dead again. I never got around to killing 53,594 zombies in Dead Rising, but I actually met the criteria on Left 4 Dead over on the 360, even if I did borrow my sister's hairband and tie it around the controller, leaving that thing whacking at a door all day. Sometimes you just gotta go to extra lengths to get those trophies and achievements. However, there isn't really such trophy in Future Perfect, with the bulk of them being tied to playing or beating the story missions, on normal or hard. And it's a nice spread of 5 bronze, 5 silver, and 3 gold trophies. 5 more trophies are tied to Arcade League and Challenge Mode, with Future Perfect actually being more stricter than TimeSplitters 2, with Amateur requiring all matches to be beaten on bronze or above, Honorary requiring all silver above, and Elite gold or above. Oh, and along the way it's best to get as high a score as possible, as 10 platinum trophies are needed, all across Arcade League, for another gold trophy. As for the challenges, well, get ready to sit down and pay attention, because now simply beating them or coming first isn't enough. Every challenge now needs to be beaten with a gold, which I won't lie, can be a bit of a grind, but that pales in comparisons when looking at another trophy on this list, as you'll need to do all that and more to unlock every character in this game, because a lot of characters will be unlocked playing this game on normal, but you're going to have to play on hard to unlock the final character, Khallos. Thankfully there's a workaround though, just replay the first mission and last on hard, and it'll unlock. Bit sneaky, but if it's in the code, well, it's fair game. Gone are the days of when you'd enter a cheat code to unlock these all straight off the bat, but I won't lie, unlocking each one as you go is a lot more satisfying. Map Maker also makes a return to the trophy list, with it simply requiring the player to make a map and then play on it. I know I skipped over this feature in TimeSplitters 2, and probably won't spend much time on it here either, but I can't deny just how impressive this feature is. Once me and my mates were a little over the maps that were on hand, we just went and made our own maps, for what felt like years. Most of these just came down to maps made for virus mode. We'd make a bunch of choke points to see how long we'd last against those green flame covered bastards. The last few trophies after this are really clean up. Impressing Harry Tipper with your stealth skills will pop a silver.
Hey, pretty groovy work, space dude. Looks like you've done this before. Cool.
So will winning a spin on Khallos' slot machine. Killing zombies with a pool ball also nets a final silver.
Aim for their heads, Cortez.
Which takes advantage of the new temporal link, but I'll run that down later. Splitting in the nick of time, just to make Cortez proud, will pop a bronze.
All they've done is pervert nature, and they paid the price.
Which leaves the final bronze for saving the past Cortez in the time loop sections. And I found the section on the train the easiest to do here. I don't know, some of the others just felt a little bit more fiddly.
We make a pretty good team. That's what I said too. But think about it. Where would you be if I hadn't shown up back there? You're right, I know.
And just looking at these extra trophies, it seems like after a while, whoever made this list just got to a certain level and just gave up. So yeah, we could have probably got a lot more trophies in this game, but at least we got the game on modern hardware, so I can't complain that much. But this is a video online, so I've got to complain just a little bit. But with that, I should probably take a deep dive into the story of TimeSplitters one last time.
Well, okay then. It's the red button.
But I can't help but noticing looking back at TimeSplitters Future Perfect, it just goes to show how much time has changed, which you would expect as this was 20 years ago. And I'm not here saying that things have changed for the worst, because I'm not a doom or anything like that. There's a lot of great games that still come out today, but just looking at the maps and roster on offer here, you can't help but think that this would be tied up to a season pass now. Or you would have to buy each individual skin for something like $20 or £20, or 40,000 million yen, and then 10 gabillion rupees.
Fuck you up in a gangster style.
Hell, this will probably date this video in a few years, as map packs were still all the rage by the end of the 8th generation. Now they're just drip fed for free because they want those microtransactions out here, which is a good thing as it used to segment the player base quite a bit. Could you imagine if Free Radical got a TimeSplitters 4 out, but then the Embracer group would make them charge for alternative skins, for like Cortez, Harry Tipper, and fuck it, even the Gingerbread Man. We'll never know now though, but you just know the monkey would end up getting the brand tie-in skin, making him Iron Man or a Jedi or something like that. Or we could get a Dom Toretto skin for Cortez. Maybe that would work. I should stop going on about this before it gives anyone any fucking ideas. Future Perfect and Free Radical were just too damn good to the players.
Well. Oh.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
This being the third game in the trilogy, there's only really two ways to go. End on a cliffhanger, or tie everything up in a nice neat bow. Nothing was left hanging. The devs ended the Great War against the TimeSplitters, but also added a few more flavours to mix it up towards the end. Because sure, the TimeSplitters have been a formidable enemy all this time, for 2 whole games even if one was a mad dash or a bag. But in the final act, Cortez comes against more evolved TimeSplitters, the Berserker Splitter, and this is the greatest threat to humanity yet. As Cortez returns to Earth, the situation has gotten bad, with his home planet resembling a wasteland, torn apart by a never-ending war. Now everything is focused on the rebel base, as an army of Berserker Splitters are between Cortez and getting to the General. Was this just a coincidence, or were they being triggered by something? Or someone to try and stop Cortez getting the crystals to the General? Was someone behind this all along, causing so much pain and destruction for their own personal gain? Well, yeah, this time there isn't just an endless wave of alien faces. Jacob Crow is the big bad now, and the reason this is all happening in the first place. He created the TimeSplitters, all while searching for immortality, but we'll learn about that as we go through the levels. Throwing Crow in doesn't feel like a last minute addition either, even if it kind of is, as he wasn't mentioned at all in those last games. But again, TimeSplitters 1 was just a mad bag rush, so I'm just going to say I'm happy with his inclusion. I just wish there were more TimeSplitters in a TimeSplitters game. It also adds a human element to it, even if Crow is a slime ball.
And exactly where do I get this time device?
That and Cortez is now a fully fledged character. The man has a proper voice actor, and boy, does Tom Clark Hill knock it out of the park with this one.
You get dental?
Yeah.
That's good.
Combined with the direction of David Doak and Steve Ellis, as well as spot-on writing by Andrew Lawson, there's never a dull moment in the cutscenes, and in various in-game vignettes as well. To this day, there's still moments in this game that make me laugh out loud. Now, does that mean I've not grown since 2005? Or maybe this is just one special game made by a real special team? Or maybe it's just personal bias? Anyway, it's time to split, and for one last time, take a deep dive into the levels.
Time to split.
Ouch! That's not cool, man.
Starting off, we get a voiceover from one of the new main characters in the series, Anya.
The year is 2401. Humankind finds itself locked in a mortal struggle with the TimeSplitters.
She also doubles as the love interest to our hero, Cortez. Now on his way back to Earth, with 9 stolen time crystals, Cortez doesn't have long before he can hand them over to the General.
This is Cortez.
Sergeant Cortez! Welcome home, sir. I'll patch you through to the General.
With the intent of using them to go back and destroy them, essentially ending the war before it ever had a chance to begin. Kinda like X-Men Days of Future Past. Now don't ask me how this is meant to work. It's a time travel story after all. There's always going to be a plot hole here and there, even though this one's solid. Though as Cortez makes his final approach, he's shot down by a laser or two, ultimately bringing him down in the wastelands.
Don't worry about me, General. I can...
Starboard turbine failure. Initiating emergency system.
His presence has stirred up a horde of berserker splitters, and these ones are more aggressive than usual. Also, while Cortez comes crashing down, a shadowy figure is watching from a distance. Did this guy have something to do with the crash? I wonder. Upside down in the wreckage, Cortez seems to be alright, and so are the crystals. Here to escort Cortez back to the base are Private Hicks and a couple of other foot soldiers.
Ooh, that's gotta hurt! You okay, Sarge? Come on, Sarge, we've gotta get you back to base. Whatever you did really stirred up the splitters.
For the longest time, I wondered why no one referenced Corporal Hart here. Like, was her sacrifice forgotten or something? Whilst playing this game to capture footage, I noticed that they actually do. It's just Cortez that doesn't mention her, as one of the soldiers in the background mentions her during a gunfight.
Say, where's Corporal Hart?
Corporal who?
Nah, never mind.
But as I mainly played this in co-op back in the day, that's probably why I missed it, as it's more of an Easter egg than anything else. Like all great opening levels, Time to Split is a tutorial in disguise, which will get the player back up to speed, and bring in some new ones, because that's what EA was banking on. This is kinda necessary as well, as the gunplay's been overhauled. It's so refined now, it feels almost like a modern shooter, with aiming and melee attack now being on every weapon. Also, I'm pretty sure every weapon has an alternate fire mode, of some sort anyway, just to shake it up. Getting back into the action fast, Cortez and Hicks don't come up against TimeSplitters, but instead hooded men in their way. Wearing all black, the masks on their face have an eye on them. These are time assassins, but I won't dive into them just yet. Just for now, they act as fodder enemies, before the TimeSplitters mothership comes crashing down.
All units, the bridge has been destroyed. Use alternate routes to rally points.
Coming down! Yeehaw! Come on, Sarge!
Oh, and watch out for that bridge that blows up too. Along the way, several of these Space Marines are taken out.
Too many! I need help! They got Jameson!
And you can find a plasma auto rifle, which is a real standout weapon in this game. It heats up like the prior game, but now it feels so much more balanced. It also sounds and looks awesome. You can really hear and see the money put into Future Perfect, even if this game's a lot more serious, with its tones more muted, and the colour palette too, which as I mentioned was probably an order from the top. All means to trick the execs into thinking they were getting a more of a serious game, as a lot more levels get a little less serious and play things more loose. You know, just like TimeSplitters was meant to be.
This is great. They don't suspect a thing, spaceman.
Rather than just trying to compete with modern shooters all the time. On at this point, I should probably mention that grenades have been tweaked too, in the sense they work like Call of Duty, or well, every other shooter now. as they can be thrown with one press of a button, rather than having to cycle to them. This doesn't really sound revolutionary now, as it's been a staple for like 15 years, but it was one of the many changes to the series. As the mothership comes crashing down, I can't help but think this could have been a secondary objective. That or defending the bridge, something like that. Yes, I know this would conflict with a certain level later, but there's an absence of secondary objectives in the third TimeSplitters game. Now straight up, I don't blame the devs for doing this, because as much as I appreciate the extra content, why have it missable? They should and did put TimeSplitters best foot first, and made everything available. This means that levels no longer end earlier on lower difficulties, and all objectives are now mandatory. Bar maybe one, but I'll get to that. This breaks from the trend that was started in GoldenEye, and I'll defend it because you can't keep to the same rigid format forever. You gotta keep reinventing yourself once in a while, whilst keeping a few seeds of what made you, your content or your art appealing in the first place. And really, if I was a dev, I'd want all my work to be seen on screen, because I bet a lot of people played TimeSplitters 2 on easy and missed a whole bunch of game. Like Return to Planet X in the second game. I choose this because it looks like the first level in Future Perfect. Half that level is gone if you play on easy. That and Siberia is way more fleshed out. So ultimately, I think this was the way to go. Turning a corner, those time assassins don't give up, as they take out another member of the squad. Poor Miller.
Through. Miller! Oh! Lost Miller!
But now it's time to avenge him with a new and improved sci-fi sniper rifle. Aiming in, there's no longer the sway from before, or the reticle trying to revert back to the centre of the screen, which fought the player at every turn.
They just keep coming!
This makes for an easier aiming experience overall, but washes away a bit of the arcade feel from the second game.
The base is just up ahead. Come on!
With those assassins out of the way, it's time to come head to head with a TimeSplitter.
You okay, Sarge? More of them! Good shooting, soldier.
These berserkers are far more tough than in the prior game, though they still act quite similar, with them turning invisible and firing lightning, just like Uncle Palps. Their designs look way more animalistic now as well, with these things looking seriously vicious. We've come so far from those burned bacon bits looking bastards in the first game, but I will say I miss the look from TimeSplitters 2. They look so much more like aliens in that game, with these ones now resembling more of a test subject or something like that. Maybe that's a hint, I don't know. But it's a shame that the Reaper Splitters were omitted from TimeSplitters Future Perfect entirely. It's a weird choice and I don't know why they were cut out. Maybe the devs just wanted to forget about them or something like that. Look, I get forgetting the bacon bits guys, but the Reaper Splitters look cool. After surviving just one Berserker Splitter, it's now time to come up against a whole shitload of them. But because this was the mid-2000s, it's time to fire up a good old-fashioned turret sequence. But honestly, this was needed for this level, as those buggers come out the goddamn walls.
They're coming out of the walls! They're coming out of the goddamn walls! Come on, Cortez, pour it on!
And after that, it's time to take on even more of them at the entrance of the base. Hold them back with everything that Cortez has. He, Hicks and the rest of the Space Marines barely make it through this, though they seem to be getting some additional help from somewhere. I wonder who it could be.
Hey, we're getting fire support from somewhere!
At this point, I've just remembered I haven't gone through the objectives of this level, like I did in the prior game. I know I could just go back and edit this in earlier, but the objectives aren't really a major part now, as TimeSplitters Future Perfect is a lot more narrative focused, which means you aren't really going off to other areas and searching for things, or going for secondary objectives. So if you just go with the flow of the level, Annie's going to tell you what to do anyway. It's very rare the player will even get to divert from the main path in Future Perfect, as a lot of the time they're guided by an AI companion.
The General's waiting, Sarge! Make a run for the base! We'll try and buy you some time!
Or when they bugger off, Annie is always in your ear. Meeting the General at the base, it's clear the game is a lot more focused than the one prior, as they set up everything you need to know in this cutscene, and the opening one. And as I mentioned cutscenes, now each level has at least 2 cutscenes, with some having even a few sprinkled in, which is more than adequate to bookmark every level. This is a good thing. With now a trail to follow, rather than a bunch of TimeSplitters scattered throughout time, this game takes a linear path.
Now I've located energy residue in numerous places, but the highest concentration is right here.
You start in the past and progressively get back to the present. It's much less of a scattershot this time, and we probably have EA to thank for this as well. Laying out what will be ahead for Cortez, and your hands over the uplink, and sends him on his way.
Here, put out your arm.
What's that?
It's an uplink to the time machine. I've set it to take you to the island just before its destruction.
Because unfortunately, he's the General's best man.
I should have guessed. Find the crystals and destroy the lot. How hard could it be?
So with that, it's time for Cortez to go on one last adventure through time and space. Travelling back in time to Scotland in 1924, this mission conveniently takes place between both world wars. Now I get the team at Free Radical wanting to avoid the obvious time period and, you know, the big bads of the time, but I don't think it was low hanging fruit, especially for the time. Cortez going after Nazis rather than Nazi adjacent enemies would have been just fine, but with that small gripe out of the way, it's time to meet up with a familiar friend.
I say, what are you doing way out here, old chap?
Or is he a friend? I don't think he's aware of what happened before. Does he know he was possessed? Best not tell him. Captain Ash is no longer off exploring. He's on a mission of the highest importance. Though weirdly enough, just 4 years before this, Captain Ash was off in the Aztec jungles, having left the Navy life behind. So even if this might look like an overlooked aspect to the story, once Ash gets to his objective, it all becomes clear why he went back to the Navy. Because who wouldn't go to such lengths to rescue the Jungle Queen?
You Tarzan, me Jane. Let me show you how we do it in the jungle.
Fun fact, this also happens to be the only secondary objective in the entire game, meaning that this entire feature in Future Perfect is based on Captain Ash getting a little too horny. When playing on co-op, she's omitted from the level entirely, which leaves no reason for Captain Ash to be here in the first place. But then again, maybe he was joining the Navy because a little man over in Germany was getting a bit too angry. As for their main objectives, they flow the story, as Cortez will need to infiltrate the castle and protect Captain Ash along the way. But from here I'm going to hold off going through them all like in TimeSplitters 2, because they get revealed as events unfold. Anya gets Cortez to the right time, but not quite the right place.
What the? Any chance of a hand?
As he drops in on the old chap out at sea, here this really sets out how each level's going to start.
I say, what are you doing way out here, old chap?
I'm supposed to be on that island.
Well, once they change time period anyway. Cortez just happens to drop in on events taking place, and then they always escalate once the pitch black looking time traveller gets involved.
But that was my best pipe, you bounders! No, don't!
Get down!
Good shot, old man.
I don't think much of this weapon.
Because Cortez wasn't meant to shoot that one. Thankfully Ash has a spare pistol though, and this gun is an alternate fire form. Pressing that will attach a silencer and a scope, and really who were not for this? Climbing up the hill towers a castle, and a battle raging above, really setting the scene for the last level. It said the castle itself was based on one from Where Eagles Dare, a brilliant World War II movie starring Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton, with the courtyard being an exact copy. And the devs even tried to emulate that one sequence where Eastwood grabbed 2 MP40s and mowed down a bunch of Nazis. Once again, the devs wearing their influences on their sleeves. Before gaining access to the castle, the devs also pay homage to silent movies of old, as Ash just seems to be at the right spot to avoid a pickle.
I say.
Unfortunately for the two, a portcullis is being dropped, so they're going to have to play a crane game to get out of this trap. And I just have to mention how silly the turret operator looks, because once he gets pulled out of the submarine, you can see his little legs poking out the bottom. And while in this trap, Anya points out that these guns are a bit too advanced for the time. This all makes sense of what happens later.
This gun is not on file for this time period. It seems to have been custom built.
Now it's time for the devs to show off the new vehicle mechanics, with either Cortez or Ash driving up the hill, with the other being on the turret at the back. It's a short-lived sequence, but I guess it looked good for highlight reels in 2005.
Hold tight! Aha! Coming through!
With the drawbridge up, I'm now thinking of Death Stranding 2 on the beach, and how mad that last trailer was. Anya also informs Cortez that the new uplink has an extra feature. He can now move objects with his freaking mind. No, not really. He uses the Force. The uplink is just like the gravity gun from Half-Life 2, in glove form, somewhat 20 years before Valve had used this in Half-Life Alyx, and then again in Death Stranding. Once you play the director's cut, it's a neat addition that always felt a little underused. But again, like those vehicle sections, I guess it worked for a highlight reel and, list the new features in the game. Back when you get all this information in the magazine and just count down the days until you can play this new game. Everything in those magazines always sounded so exciting back then. It's used a lot more in the post-game activities to be fair. The temporal uplink also replaces the fists, as punching isn't needed anymore, as you can melee attack with each weapon now. Blowing through the main doors, the castle is now well and truly infiltrated, but this means his partnership is up for now.
I have to signal the Navy. You go ahead.
Cortez won't be alone for long though, as he's greeted by, well, himself.
You're me. I knew you'd say that. Here. A key.
Future Cortez is here to drop down a key to help the current, and then past Cortez to get through the mission. Where does he get the key from though? Who knows? This segment becomes more fleshed out of each level, and really takes advantage of the time travel premise, helping TimeSplitters really stand out. And whenever two Cortezes are on screen, it's always interesting. And you just have to wonder what the devs could have cooked up with a fourth entry. In the cellar, Cortez comes across an interesting fellow, the self-proclaimed
bestest guard. Without me, no guarding. All rubbish guarding. God of guards and girls.
Best leaving to finish the rest of his cellar off, because the island isn't going to be around much longer anyway. Hooking back up with Ash, Cortez gets a glimpse of someone that might be in charge. The leader, as we'll call him for now, escapes via a secret passage in the fireplace, before a time portal pops up, and of course, Cortez jumps through.
Check this out. Hey, isn't that me?
Sure looks like it.
Yeah, that's right where I was when the other me gave me that.
Even with the risks, Cortez doesn't seem all that bothered.
All the time travel in the area must have destabilized the time field. Your future self must have... Cortez, wait!
Catching up with Captain Ash for the third and final time, we now see why he came all this way, as the Jungle Queen was taken captive and is locked away in the prison, and Cortez should really help this love-struck couple out, and has quite a funny tongue-in-cheek aspect to it. But sadly, this is where we're going to leave Captain Ash, and we never get to hang out with the fisticuffs loving old Bean again. Maybe one day someone will get the rights to TimeSplitters, and we'll see him again. But if not, I'm happy we helped this old lad out.
They made you do what? Like a monkey? Those bounders! Right, well, I think we'd better be going, old boy. Thanks again for your help. Good luck with, whatever it is you're doing here. Cheerio!
Boss fights are back, and this time in the form of a tank. This is going to require the secondary fire of the KSMG, with a few of these rocket-propelled grenades that stall the tank, so Cortez can place some dynamite onto it and finish this thing for good. It looks imposing at first, but it's quite a simple boss fight. It doesn't take too much to stall the tank, and there's plenty of cover, and once it is, it's a sitting duck. And side tangent, but I've just mentioned ducks, so I've just got to quickly talk about them, because this reminds me of old Big Tony, and his never-ending battle against Duckman Drakes. Thinking back on it, was this a reference to Sopranos all along? If so, it's a real deep cut, and if not, I'm just putting it out there. The duck episode came out before that first game, so the timelines add up.
You showed us yesterday.
It's great!
Anyway, going under the island, it's time for Cortez to finally confront the leader.
I thought I told you not to interrupt me.
Whoa!
The old bugger just vanished, which means he can also travel through time as well. But how? Cortez is just going to have to keep following the leads and find out. Well, after the birth of his legendary catchphrase anyway.
Cortez, you ready?
Yeah, it's time to split.
Right, whatever.
Jumping forward to 1969, lol, Cortez once again drops in on another legend of the series, Harry Tipper.
Damn it! Wow, man! Are you for real? Stop that.
Dressed to the nines, this cool cat doesn't seem too freaked out over the spaceman that's just dropped in. This is totally fine, as you don't need to waste any time explaining this each time, or when Cortez meets someone new. It fits the tone and helps the player get into the action fast. Tipper is on the tail of Khallos once again, because this time he's gonna kidnap Kitten Celeste. Tipper also drops the fact that Khallos' new friend is searching for the key to eternal life.
Word is, Khallos giving him a small army in exchange for, get this, eternal life.
Eternal life?
Yeah!
And man, I just have to say straight off that this partnership is probably the peak of all TimeSplitters. Tipper and Cortez just work so well together. There isn't many characters out there that can make Cortez play the straight man, but Tipper somehow does. The entire game could have been these two on a buddy cop adventure throughout time, and I'd be totally fine with that.
Hey, where you going, man?
Time to split.
Ouch! That's not cool, man.
After Cortez impresses Tipper with his stealth skills, or not depending on how the player wants to go with this. Stealth is an option, or they could go loud. That and steal a vehicle for a little Grand Theft Auto action, though this all culminates in the deactivation of an electric fence, to meet back up with Harry Tipper, and it won't be long before this pair split up once again. They were barely together this time to be fair, as it's time for a mandatory sniper section, because Tipper's going to refuse to take out any enemies himself. Now I get why he isn't doing this because it's a gameplay section, but it's a bit weird that Harry Tipper puts away his weapon and just lets the guards shoot him. Thankfully the aiming has been fully overhauled, and the aiming reticle doesn't wrestle with the player to return back to the centre. Otherwise I bet this sequence would have been a nightmare for some. With the disguise in hand, Tipper gets the short end of the stick for sure.
It's just not my color at all. Man, the things I do to save the world. It's pretty breezy, too.
Now in a female's uniform, for some reason Tipper starts prancing around like he's role-playing or something. Never would have bet on him being a method actor. And I can't deny I found this quite amusing back in the day. And you know what, I still do now. So what was set up as a straight FPS level has now become an undercover operation. Just showing how far TimeSplitters has come since the early days. The first game was a glorified point-to-point shootout. 2 overhauled this and redefined the structure, with a bunch of elements to interact with along the mission. But now with Future Perfect, there are clear segments or sequences rather than just running and gunning. And I'm not against running and gunning, because I love myself some Doom and Wolfenstein, but it's great to just mix things up each level, as each level strives to do something new, even when the time period is still the same.
Attention, Harry Tipper has entered the base. He is disguised as a woman.
Now I'm no game designer because I'm shit at math and was never really good at science, but this to me really is a point of a sequel, to really refine what came before and improve on it, and there's got to be a real reason to make a sequel in the first place. Some of the people behind this game crafted one of the most legendary first person shooters out there with GoldenEye 007, so a decade later on, they know what they're doing.
Hey you! The ugly woman with a mustache? You better let me go right now!
Now we'd be lucky to get one sequel in this time span, sneaking around Khallos' base of operations. Some of the guards' conversations are, well, pretty interesting.
Goran and I finally did it last night. Really? What was it like? It was fascinating.
Really playing to their demographic at the time. Oh, and one of them alludes to the Brotherhood of Ultra Science, which will be quite relevant later.
So we argued, but he persuaded me that we should join. And we did last night. I certainly don't regret it. We are special now, and we're going to get more and more so.
Turning the power back online will be the next course of action. This is probably the best point to bring up Anya. She's vital to help through certain sections and really keeps the level going, with her frequent updates guiding Cortez from point to point. Acting like a moneypenny or a queue, she's essential to the overall experience.
This looks like the main generator. Get this working and you'll get power back.
She's also much more effective than yellow paint that we get in like every game now. I know some players probably need help to get from point to point, but we should really be able to turn that stuff off. There are so many accessibility sliders in games these days, so just add that one to it as well. Before getting the power back online, the player can also stumble across in the music section.
Hey, gorgeous. Haven't seen you in Sector 1 before.
Yes, I have been transferred here from Sector 4.
Well, you must have really screwed up big to get sent down here with the rest of us deadbeats.
Because when Tipper gets his legs out, everyone pays attention. Past the blast door, there's a handy vehicle to speed things up, but for some reason Harry Tipper wants to go down the stairs. Getting down to level 3, we get another glimpse of the mystery time traveller.
And go! Oh, for goodness sake! Whoa! Over there! Get him!
Before it's time to hitch a ride on the Khallos Express.
Damn it!
Thanks. No problem, man. Let's go.
After Cortez struggles to get aboard the train, Tipper makes a callback to the ethics of Dr. Jones, when it comes to trying to get a free ride anyway.
No ticket.
No ticket.
With that out of the way, it's time to talk about train levels, because you really can't beat them when they're done right. They are so simple in concept, but the fact these levels are so restrictive really shakes things up, especially as the prior levels were so wide open. Fighting through each train car, there's always something new to encounter, as this train isn't a copy and paste job. It's miles ahead of what GoldenEye could do back in the day.
You there!
Some of the narrow train cars cause the action to be real snappy, so much more that you might miss the henchwoman trying to release her load. Destructible crates get in the player's way as they're being pursued by a helicopter, and by today's standards, this is nothing special. But back in the PS2 era, I still remember this being a big thing. In fact, whenever an environment could be destroyed or manipulated, this made that game feel so much more ahead of any others at the time. Sure, we've been able to destroy windows for a while now, but destroying crates or something like that, it was still kind of new. Well, for the consoles anyway. A bit like the pseudo water tech in TimeSplitters 2. A few cars down, future Cortez is back. Defending him is the only way to get rid of that bastard in the sky. And if you ever get a closer look at the pilot, well, that's some nightmare fuel right there. His face is something else. Playing these sections from both perspectives hardly gets old either, with the objectives usually being varied enough, and like I mentioned earlier, just plays into a key part of the premise, making this feel like a real time travel story. If you have a game where time travel is a thing, fuck it, get wild with it. I always love how impressed Cortez is with himself. His character is just so endearing at times.
Cortez, the train.
Oh yeah. I know what I'm doing.
Dual-wielding machine guns should do the trick for the next few cars, as they're filled with henchmen and women. They think they're ready for Harry Tipper, but they're getting Cortez instead.
Harry Tipper could be here any minute.
I know he's our sworn enemy, but he's so gorgeous.
I know. Let's capture him and then he'll be at our mercy.
Passing by a slot machine that you'll need for a trophy, and a slideshow of what's to come, Khallos traps Cortez and Tipper, and unlike many evil villains, he's quite competent, if not a little creepy.
Well, if it isn't Harry Tipper, and you brought a big, muscular friend.
Though with a flick of the wrist, thanks to the temporal uplink, the duo are saved. Again, the devs are calling back to something they knew of Khallos, but they always make good to tweak on their inspirations, like with the cat. I love that this thing is a remote control car essentially. It's so random but it just works. This level also introduces puzzles, which isn't something you'd expect to find in this game, but it's essential to fucking up Khallos' World War III plans, and making sure that never kicks off. Now the two just need to deal with the man himself, and this is a perfect spot to bring up a mistake I made in my last video. The Atom Smasher level in TimeSplitters 2 actually takes place 3 years after this, in 1972, with him simply being defeated in 1969. Lol. Claiming he'll have his revenge.
I will have my revenge!
Stopping the train in the nick of time, Tipper finally gets reunited with his girl, Kitten Celeste. As Tipper and Celeste head to a party, Annie has another lead for Cortez, so it's time for him to split and follow up on the Brotherhood of Ultra Science.
Just do the thing.
Jumping forward in time, Cortez now finds himself in the 90s, just before the world got a little bit more attitude to it. And unlike the prior game, for the most part, each time Cortez travels to a new time period, it's sequential, rather than dotting around through time. Which makes sense when he's following a trail, rather than a bunch of scattered TimeSplitters, who are notoriously absent from this game. And it's a shame because the Berserkers look bloody cool. The character design of Future Perfect really peaked with a Mansion of Madness. You don't get more mid-2000s post-Attitude Era than Jo-Beth Casey.
Oh, hey, you're no zombie!
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe in the multiplayer when you look at some of those characters. But when it comes to the main cast, she's right up there. Surprisingly, the writing doesn't let her down. She has real spunk to her and she's not a bimbo or anything like that, and comes across as well-rounded.
You're not from around here, are you?
No, and it's dangerous here. You should go home.
What? Are you kidding? There's no way I'm backing out now, so you can either help me or stay out of my way.
Fine, but I'm using the front door.
I mean, you've got to be a real character to walk around with the word slut on your chest. But again, Free Radical will play into the audience for sure. This mission though, is a zombie fan's wet dream. Taking everything that Free Radical has done before, the next 2 missions distill this down into what might be the best 2 first-person zombie levels out there. As the unlikely duo explore the mansion. I like that Jo-Beth Casey isn't here to save the world or anything. She's just here for a couple of photos to get in a gang.
Oh, that's just great. Now we're trapped in here with the dead people.
But thanks to some conveniently placed lightning, these 2 won't be going back out the way they came. Before a scientist can spit out what he's done, a chandelier takes him out.
Ew, that is gross.
Then ghosts show up, but they can be taken out of a handy flamethrower. I don't get the logic in that, especially when we get to the next level. But whatever. Though this weapon's going to do more harm than good in the next room. So the baseball bat is the way forward here, which is a classic weapon against the undead. Anya makes sure to remind Cortez to go for the head, but thankfully, these aren't TimeSplitters 1 zombies, so smacking them anywhere will eventually do the trick. You've also got to love the one-liners and witty remarks that Anya comes out with.
Don't let them eat my brain!
Do you think anyone would notice?
I do like that her and Cortez are always getting along and having a laugh, even if the fate of the world is at stake. With just the first few rooms, the pace of TimeSplitters Future Perfect has totally changed. Going from a high-octane chase on a speeding train, to skulking around a haunted mansion with zombies lurking about. This is TimeSplitters at its best. At this point I'm sure people are sick of me flating this game, but I'm just going to keep doing it anyway. As Future Perfect has some great game design, I'd argue the story itself peaks around here as well, as later on things get a bit more muted, and a lot serious. We also get another callback to popular horror movies of the time.
Ghosts and zombies? What is going on here?
And by that I mean the haunted ghost girl Edwina, as The Ring and The Grudge were all the rage back in the day. All this to force Cortez outside to fight some off-brand tremors.
I'm gonna make a run for it.
Barney!
or graboids as they're actually called. Saving the scientists in the tree will help pass some time as the flames behind disappear. This is pretty much all we get of Edwina as well, as their plot was largely cut, and probably for good measure. Cut dialogue also reveals that this level featured Edwina a lot more, as she would speak to Cortez and seemingly be on his side. Apparently this was going to be a fetch quest or something like that, but none of this made the cut. So she just becomes a creepy mini-boss and that's it. And now it's time to upgrade from the bat to the weapon of choice for taking out zombies, the shotgun. The bigger brother to the one we've seen in the past 2 games. With only holding 2 shells at once, this makes zombies a real threat, especially as now each weapon takes longer to reload. Thanks to the devs now animating each weapon to reload separately, rather than just popping down off the screen and coming back up. The shotgun will be essential to survive the very Resident Evil looking dining hall, as zombies fall from above. And there are so many different zombies in this level, from the normal looking people to the butler and maid. There's just enough to make the player forget they're shooting the same models over and over again. And look, I'm not complaining because you can't expect devs to make like 100 different zombie models. What's on offer here does the job. They also animate a hell of a lot better than they've done in prior games, as they stumble towards Cortez's shotgun. These are all just a warm up though, as the freaky deer head on the wall has a body attached.
My god, what is that? Oh, gross! Kill it!
The moose is truly moose. Nothing in this fight is revolutionary, it's just a fun couple of minutes. Exiting the room though, this is where the tone changes quite a bit, and this level gets really spooky at some points. There's a terrified scientist sitting there, running through events that took place, and they sound pretty terrifying.
They're dead! They're all dead! I couldn't do anything. I had to leave them, I had to! I can still hear them screaming!
With creepy music playing alongside this, moments like this can really get under your skin, especially if you listen to what he's saying. Each time you find one of these guys, I just wonder if Free Radical could have pulled off a fully fledged horror game. In the upper levels there's a grim reference to The Shining, but also the zombies shoot back now. That and someone even start running at the player to really change the pace. One of these between a bunch of walking zombies and some that shoot can really fuck up your day. In such a confined space, this becomes quite deadly. Oh, and the Beatles from The Mummy are here for some reason. Because of course they are.
Oh great, now what?
No! No, get away! Help me!
This is also the level's excuse to separate the player from the AI companion, because in the attic, Edwina is back, but this time she's spewing flames right at Cortez, whilst he's got to deal with a bunch of the undead. After this, we learn of a secret lab down below the mansion, Resident Evil style, all thanks to a scientist who also mentions the leader's still about.
We did research, wanted to live forever. Seems a bad joke now.
Though first, Princess is going to be in Cortez's way. This towering hunk of meat puts the deer hunters to shame. Just look at this homunculus, it's got a massive attack area, and it breathes fire just for good measure.
I heard a lot of crashing and banging and gunfire, but I thought I'd like to stay in here.
The carrion carcasses are peak enemy design right here. Just look at these demonic undead cow things, they're certainly done laughing. This is such a creative idea and they're really just a throwaway enemy. In one small room, you gotta love how they still moo as well. Oh, and there's a zombified chef, because this level didn't already have enough character models in it. Putting them all down for good, this will unlock the door to the hatch below. After exploring the mansion, it's time to go underground, which is something that's becoming a bit of a pattern. By that I mean, each level isn't always in a new time period, as the devs over at Free Radical made the most of the settings they had, so every time period gets a little bit more fleshed out, and the companions get more time to shine as well, rather than being ditched after just one mission.
I've just gotta get a picture of this. Say cheese. Ha! Dumb zombies!
I don't think her brains are really gonna quench their appetite.
Though saying that, we only get one mission with Captain Ash, which is a real shame. The opening cutscene of What Lies Below though, is something that players keep clipping out to this day. It's pure TimeSplitters, saying a lot with not much at all.
You go first.
Getting into the level, Jo-Beth immediately walks off, because of course she does.
No comments about the size of my butt, okay?
Because after all, she's here for some pictures, not to save the world. After turning a few corners and falling through the floor, Cortez finds her again, but way too quickly. Say hello to Jo-Beth Creepy.
My god, what is that?
Which is an excellent name for a demonic copycat character. And these freaks are changelings, much like the ones we saw in Notre Dame in TimeSplitters 2. If you let them get too close, they'll shake your money maker. for sure. Thankfully, the revolver makes short work of them, and if the players feel merciful, they can end the 2 zombies hanging above. A little detail I've always appreciated: these aren't just static NPCs, they're in fact still alive, or undead, or programmed to be undead, or they react like they're still alive, /undead / programmed to. So if you shoot them, they're going to make a noise, and you can blow their heads off to put them out of their misery. Turning the corner, it seems like the real Jo-Beth has got herself caught in a trap, but who and why are they setting these up? I guess it doesn't matter now, as it's time to protect Jo-Beth before she gets eaten, as she dangles there like a piñata for the undead.
If I knew this would happen, I would have worn pants.
After this, we trade the mines for some secret underground labs. You know, the real good stuff. There's some classic vignettes down here too, with a bunch of scientists meeting their end, in some real gruesome ways.
Oh God, help me! Oh God!
Oh, yuck! Sucks to be him.
And of course, you can never save the poor buggers in time. Also the fact that some of these will then come back as zombies to attack you. Chef's kiss, that's just brilliant stuff. And yes, I'll keep saying this, because for me, this was real mind-blowing. Even if I do see now this was a canned animation and a scripted event, this NPC would always become a zombie, and the skin just switches when you turn the corner. But just let me have this magic moment, okay?
Maybe we can see what's been going on.
After putting an end to an all-you-can-eat feast, the computer in the corner will become essential to move forward, and really is a step back in time, back when people had a dedicated corner for the family PC. Simpler times. Using this desktop, within a PlayStation 2 emulated game, inside a PS5, this pseudo-inception was quite impressive at the time. Well, to console scrubs like myself anyway. I always remember being blown away that the devs got this computer running in an actual game. How innocent my mind was back then. Clicking through the windows and shortcuts, there's a bunch of Easter eggs, by the devs for more curious players, like that one message about brains, or that one zombie just sitting in front of the camera for some reason. There's also an audio log which is way ahead of its time.
This is A. Leonard's maintenance log for week 72. All the essential systems seem to be functioning fine. Secondary output is back to between...
These are only just starting to make their way into video games in the major way, either as tools to hide information, or paint the picture in the player's mind of what happened before. By the time of the 7th generation, these would be all over games, with only a few handling them well. Most just felt unnecessary and rambling, just to make up a word count, almost like me going on about audio logs for some reason.
Anyway, I put all the electrical tools and the body armor back in the locker.
Some people also say this is a reference to Doom 3, and how scientists would just drop vital information without a care in the world, which is a fun jab at Carmack and crew.
It's probably not wise to leave that kind of information in my log anyway. God knows who's listening in. Anyway, 400. That's it. 400 or something.
With a lack of TimeSplitters in our TimeSplitters game, the zombies have taken up their mantle by firing electric at the player.
Electric zombies? That is like so unfair.
That's shocking. Sorry.
Again, something that just doesn't last long, but it seems like every turn of the corner, this level and the one prior, are trying to throw something new at the player, keeping them on their toes and engaged. Also, if you were my age at the time, these were kind of scary. In the next room, the harpoon gun will be introduced. This is basically the crossbow from the last game, but refined. You shoot the harpoons, kill the bad guys, and then reclaim the harpoons. It's simple enough. And just looking at the gun, it's a real robust piece of kit, rather than it just looking like a few bits of wood and string in TimeSplitters 2. It's also essential to hold zombies off until Jo-Beth hacks the door open. It's a real bullet and shell saver. Zombies will also tank a bunch of harpoons if they're not shot in the head, which looks real gnarly sometimes. And because the level is so damn dense, through the next couple of doors, there'll be a zombie locked in a testing chamber. Accessing the computer terminal, there'll be a bunch of text logs and stuff like that about the experiments. But keep clicking around a few more times, and Cortez will be able to get some real good pictures for Jo-Beth Casey. As there's the option to do, well, whatever you want to the zombie. There's so much to play with here, and it's quite strange that this wasn't tied to a trophy. In the next room there's the same chamber again, but this time there's a scientist inside, and he doesn't feel guilty at all about what he's done.
I'm not coming out till they're all dead. I helped make them. I'm not gonna be killed by them.
So if you want, you can go and make him pay. Personally, I tried to go for the DK mode, but you just can't get the head that big.
Princess! I got some more food!
In the next area, for some reason, there's a blatant Ozzy Osbourne ripoff. Lenny Elburn is a scientist who's just lost it, and he really is just so random. But at least now you know who's been setting the traps, and the name of the giant creature that Cortez fought earlier, even though I did spoil it. Ozzy was far from his peak by the time this game came out, but his reality TV show, The Osbournes, was in its final season, so that's kind of relevant.
Hey! Get away from my burrito, little bastard.
Just when it looks like this level might be over, Cortez and Jo-Beth corner young Crow.
I don't know who you are, but you're not getting any further.
We'll see about that.
Yes. Yes, we will.
But he pulls out a villain classic, the trapdoor, and of course, Cortez falls down. Next up is a minecart shooting gallery with head sprouters and zombies all about. And if you just take a look at the head sprouters, they could almost be a primitive version of the TimeSplitters. And then with the next few levels, it feels like the devs are leaving breadcrumbs for the player to find. Just one of the many breadcrumbs left throughout the game. I like how Anya has to say the minecart broke Cortez's fall, because sure, the floor would have been worse.
Broke your fall.
I mean, there's no padding in that minecart. At the end of this sequence, Cortez comes across his future self once again, and he wastes no time explaining what's up this time.
Get down! What? Whoa! What the hell was that? Ghosts? Ghosts? But how did you see them? Ghost goggles. Ghost gun.
Out of all the future past crossovers, no, not the X-Men, this is the most blah of them all. Like, it's cool I guess, but it's the same stretch of mine twice. All you do is switch up the weapons and use a ghost gun for about 10 minutes. And the ghosts themselves are pretty shit, if I'm gonna be honest. They're just 2D sprites that come wiggling their arms at you and that's it. I appreciate the variety and all that, but it just doesn't do it for me. Dropping down another hole, getting real deep underground at this point. I'm shocked Cortez hasn't come across a Balrog or the Locust. But no, it's time for one last battle against Princess, as the creature is sat in a pit of lava of all things. Because video games, I guess. More's on the line this time as Jo-Beth Casey is hung above the creature, so that and some annoying flying bastards make this fight a little bit more challenging. But thankfully there's a big old gas can in Princess's mouth, so of course you just shoot that and the whole thing will be over pretty quickly.
Hurry before it eats her!
Oh, and if playing split screen multiplayer, Jo-Beth ain't gonna be up there. Instead, it'll be Lenny Oldburn. Hooking back up with Jo-Beth, the mystery man is gone, but not without leaving a parting gift. Operating the door would trigger a self-destruct sequence.
Jacob Crow? So at last our mystery man has a name. I'll run a search on the database. This whole place is gonna blow! You've got to get to the elevator in the labs.
Which just plays into classic secret underground labs. I mean, you don't want anyone to find your secret underground lab when you're done with it, so blow it up when you're gone. Also, Crow, the mystery man, leaves Cortez a neat little reference to Jurassic Park.
Please! God damn it! Hate this hacker crap!
And whilst I'm on this point, can we all just accept that Seinfeld is canon to Jurassic Park?
Why is that?
Because Jurassic Park is a perfect end for Newman. Anyway, escaping the labs, the game throws everything at the player, bar some ghosts, whilst Anya drops a bunch of facts in the player's ear.
According to the records, there is a weapons company called U-Genix, which was founded by Jacob Crow. Apparently the company was suspected of illegal research and was closed down by the government in 2052.
Weird time to drop a lore dump, as I'm sure a bunch of players missed this, just trying to survive. But to sum it up, Jacob Crow hasn't been playing by the rules, as he's been desperately searching for the key to eternal life. Outside, young Crow gets filled in by old man Crow.
Grandpa? No, fool! It's me! Grandpa! No! I'm you! You're me? Yes! From the future!
This doesn't create any paradox like Anya warns, but it does explain why the scientists know so much. This whole cutscene goes from quite serious to quite funny after a while, which honestly is Free Radical's MO at this point.
Crow! You again?
What?
There's another lore dump and the time crystals are brought up, before it's time for Crow to split, and he gets out of there. And with that, it's also time for Cortez to split too, as he leaves Jo-Beth Casey to do her thing.
You got a location for that U-Genix company?
Way ahead of you, Cortez. Coordinates locked in. Ready when you are.
These past two levels really cement my love for this series. As you can see, they take up a significant part of this video. Cortez and Jo-Beth just work so well together. There's a ton of intrigue as we go from creepy mansion to underground facility. Then we learn who the real bad guy is. These levels are so dense, and you could really make a video about these levels alone. This was Free Radical at the top of their game.
It's time to... I gotta go.
But... oh well. Too old for me anyway.
Appearing at the top of the U-Genix company building in the year 2252, Cortez spots someone else who's breaking into the headquarters. From here it's the case of harnessing the player's stealth abilities as they try and get down below. It isn't necessary, but sneaking around makes this whole level a lot easier.
Looks like she knows the layout. I'm gonna follow her in.
Okay, I'll try and find out who she is. Be careful, Cortez.
Don't worry about me.
Thankfully, the new acquired mag charger can take out electrical systems and cameras without much hassle.
Change mode on your mag charger, and you can see electrical systems, like cameras.
Aiming the thing, it feels like you're stepping into the shoes of the Predator. Zapping a few control panels, Cortez will now be able to manipulate the security system, so you can go loud, or get the security bots to lend a hand, or just shut them all down entirely. Stealthing through this skyscraper, you can expect the usual fare of guards, laser traps, and cameras. Again, Cortez can go guns blazing, but that's just not my style.
Possible intruder detected on floor 128. Squad 17, investigate. Affirmative, 17 en route.
Though once you come across some time grenades, it's hard to resist using them.
Time grenades? This is extremely dangerous technology. These were banned in the Peckham Convention of 2055. Just the sort of thing you'd expect Crow to have lying around.
Accessing another terminal, Cortez and Anya can get a look at this mystery woman, and it's clear she can hold her own.
She's good.
Though I'm sure she appreciates the extra help via a gun turret, even though this mission is a lot more bog standard than the last couple. It's a fine stealth FPS level, with drinks machines and cleaning robots being a nice touch. And I swear this is a trope that comes up more often than not, because the same technique of using a cleaning robot to get into somewhere was used in Alien Isolation.
I am the Sweet Sap DPT cleaning robot. I am ideal for both office and domestic use. No job is too small.
And whilst I brought that up, do a lad a favour and go watch that video. It deserves so many more views. The handyman then drops a truth bomb as he's trying to shut down the alarm.
This building's computer has more glitches than the CEO's had secretaries. I don't understand that either. How is it possible to hire so many useless secretaries? Perhaps if he tried someone a bit more mature, with greater experience, their performance would be more satisfactory.
He's got a point.
And I don't know if it's an inside dig or not, as Free Radical used to hire a lot of people straight out of university, rather than seasoned vets. I don't know, just a thought. Dealing with guys that rappel through the windows, the time grenades are a must here. Then stepping into the toilets, it's a reminder that mirrors used to be a thing in video games, and by that I mean reflections in mirrors, as now it feels like every mirror is smudged or broken or something like that. Turning the corner, it's time for Cortez to find his partner for the next 2 levels.
Hold it right there.
Damn it!
I know you've been following me. What are you after?
I'm looking for Crow.
Looks like we're here on similar business.
Maybe we could help each other out.
You think you can keep up?
I've already saved your hide once.
Just don't get in my way.
Gaining access to Crow's office, Amy Chen drops more truth bombs while she tries to hack her way through his defenses.
People who use their own names for their password deserve to be hacked.
Whilst Cortez defends her, the SBP-500 is a fine weapon for this as well, without having a really high firing rate, and it's pretty quick to reload. Though I've never been a fan of the dispersion gun, it's a futuristic style shotgun weapon, which always feels a bit flat. Once Amy finally gets into Crow's office, it seems like there's yet again another secret underground lab.
Hidden right under this building. So, the rumors of illegal research and abductions must be true. The evidence will be down in those labs.
I swear Crow has these things all over the world, but it's a trope I'm never going to get sick of. Unlike the other companions, it's also nice to see that Amy isn't that trusting of Cortez just yet.
This should take us to Crow's secret lab.
I'm ready.
I pressed it already.
Yeah, right.
However, getting to the lift, these two finally get to have a chat, as the game resets the pace, going into the next level.
So, been with the agency long?
Yeah. 3 years in May.
Yeah! Time to split!
I'll get the next one.
As the level opens, Cortez and crew get a look into what Crow is all about, when he's not being supervised.
Our research is unfettered by ignorant moral restrictions. The goal is all that matters.
Unfettered by moral restrictions? Sounds like a clear admission of illegal research techniques to me.
The deeper the player gets into the labs, the more fascistic he sounds.
Anyone expressing doubts about our project should be reported to your superior immediately. Be vigilant at all times.
Sneaking into the showers, some scientists are having a good old chat.
Yesterday, I injected this guy, and his eyes glowed yellow and all the lights went out. When they came back on, he was dead.
Weird. You sure all this stuff is safe? I heard rumors about things happening in other labs.
Not expressing doubts about the project, are we?
No, of course not. My loyalty to the Brotherhood is absolute.
Now with the ID card in hand, it'll be time for Cortez to change his outfit once again, whilst Crow continues to blabber on in the background.
Knowledge is power, and we are learning more and more.
Though Amy isn't as keen to change her outfit like Tipper was, so she follows behind, whilst reminding Cortez who he's undercover as.
Remember, your name is Gordon. Now lead on, Doctor.
Are we sure this isn't Black Mesa? Jumping on another terminal, the rail bot can be used to take out the guards. But I can't help get distracted by the monitor. Like, what's up with that aspect ratio? Why is it in 4:3? That's so 20th century. Getting through security, it becomes clear why this place was locked down. Because it's been a few minutes, Amy decides to keep watch of the door, whilst Cortez looks for a way to pass through, as he's going to need to get sterilized.
I'm not sure if we're allowing anyone into the sterile area at the moment.
Of course, this isn't so simple, as the player's going to have to find Dr. Fergal, though she won't be much help either.
I'm afraid we're not allowing anyone past this point at the moment. A small situation has developed, but it should be under control soon. Perhaps you'd like to discuss techniques for negating gangrenous and attenuating nephrotic degradation while we wait.
Just run, Cortez. Just run.
And this doesn't matter much, as Amy comes rushing in, with a bunch of friends in tow.
Don't shoot me! I'm too clever to die!
Thankfully, the sterilization isn't as intrusive as it was in Dr. No. That scene just went on forever.
Agent Steambox. Reading 38.
But now Amy's got a matching outfit. Getting to the next room, sticking around and listening to the employees talk is always one of my favourite parts of this game. In any level in Future Perfect, whenever you get a chance to eavesdrop, you should. The dialogue's quirky, and it's always world building.
Hey, didn't you guys hear that? All the experiments are cancelled. I'm out of here in 5 minutes.
I can't wait to get out of here and have a shower. I got plasma all over my arms earlier on. I should be issued a biosuit.
Amy has this all covered, with some unconventional means.
I'm sorry, sweetheart, we can't let you through. And believe me, you don't want to go...
Believe me, it would have been less painful if you hadn't called me sweetheart.
Blasted by more security forces, another scientist is going to be waiting, but this time they've got something for Cortez.
Oh, thank God! You've got to help! Mutants have broken out! They're overrunning the whole facility! I've got this serum. It should kill them if delivered via a dart gun, but I'm no soldier.
Now the injector becomes more deadly than ever. Because, well, just take a look at this. This serum saves on bullets because those mutants really tank some shots. Also, just looking at them and seeing how they behave, you start to see more clues to the origins of the TimeSplitters, as the mutants disappear partially and send out electric shockwaves. As chaos ensues, the security guards are pretty outmatched.
Hey, it's him!
And quoting from Aliens isn't going to help them either.
You like that, huh? You want some more? Oh, you want some too, huh? Yeah, come on!
Blasting through this level, Free Radical has done a fine job to make it feel really chaotic. Like everything's really going to shit. And then because we can never have enough references, here's another quote from Aliens.
Game over, man. Game over!
Makes me almost feel bad for these guys. They've got great taste. Playing back through this level for the retrospective, I forgot how much fun it was wading through the labs. I don't know, there's always something special about enemies fighting each other in a level. Sometimes a triple threat match is just what a level needs, especially when a lot of players are expecting another stealth affair. You can't even argue this is anywhere near the same as the last secret lab either. Back in that level everyone was pretty much dead, but here in 2052, we see it all go down. Getting around the lockdown means you have to kill all the mutants, even those ones locked to the bed, and well, the crane comes in handy here.
Cortez, no, that's horrible.
After dealing with them, it's time to hook back up with Future Cortez once again.
Grab that terminal and hack the access code. I'll deal with the railguns.
Hacking the terminal was the aim for this one, whilst Future Cortez holds off the enemies. And for some reason,
password's banana.
Not that these puzzles are tough or anything, but I bet they stump some players who just want to shoot some more mutants. Just when it seems like there isn't enough pair of hands to go around,
Each terminal must be simultaneously decrypted in order to proceed.
2 more Cortezes drop in, pushing the timeline to its limits.
Keep it going. I'll take the other terminal.
Now through the wormhole, it's this Cortez's turn to cover the other ones. And for something that repeats 4 times, I don't hate it. Though again, this just has me wondering what the devs could have done with a TimeSplitters 4. You can really get wild with a time travel premise. Just look at Mortal Kombat 11. When you play as Shang Tsung, you can take over the universe. That's good shit.
It has begun.
Having fun?
What a cool bunch of guys.
You did it! Great job. I can't believe there wasn't a simpler way, though.
Now back with Amy, it's time to finally go face to face with Jacob Crow. If it were only that simple though. Destroying his security bots will drop his shields and leave the old gate open for interrogation. Though it turns out Cortez might have a bigger part to play here, as he kind of lays out the plan for Crow.
Don't play dumb with me, Crow. I know everything. I know you used the time device to travel back to 1994 and tell your younger self to carry on your twisted genetic experiments using the power of the time crystals.
Really? Really?
Well, yeah.
In all his rage, somehow Cortez yelling echoes all the way back 83 years.
Damn it! Spaceman!
Nice to see Tipper and Kitten Celeste debriefing after the mission. Thanks to a destroyed bot, Cortez and Anya work out their next destination.
I think I can take it from here.
Right.
All set, Cortez. But be careful. There's a war going on.
I'm ready.
Landing in the year of 2243, Cortez finds himself in the Machine Wars, less than 200 years from his own time now, where the TimeSplitters brings humanity to its knees. So whilst he's here, Cortez is going to need some backup.
Yeah, who's a daddy?
After hacking R110, this robot will become Cortez's buddy until the very end. Light spoilers, but I'm pretty sure if you're watching this, you've played the game already. And if not, what are you doing? Hacking the battle droid impresses the resistance, so they offer Cortez to tag along.
Which unit are you with? Oh, never mind. We can talk later. This sector is hot. We gotta keep moving.
The human resistance. They might know where the Ultranet base is.
They also have a battle tank, which makes getting to Ultranet a lot easier. Machine Wars is true to its name, with this level being all about destroying bots as Cortez gets to his objective. There are light and heavy bots to mix up the action, with the larger lads being tanky as hell. There's also the odd human enemy that's defected to the dark side, just to show how low some can get. I really prefer the sci-fi weapons in Future Perfect compared to the two prior. They just feel so much better to shoot and have a real kick to them. Though honestly, I could almost forget we're playing a TimeSplitters game at this point. What with the muted dark setting? I know Notre Dame was dark, but it still had some character to it. Even though the players fought zombies, mutants and pseudo-Nazis by now, these two levels are far more mature, feeling more like a precursor to Haze, rather than a continuation of this goofy romp. The tank sequence also detaches from what makes TimeSplitters feel unique, but mandatory vehicle sections were in a lot of games back in the PS2 and Xbox era. Though you've got to give it to Halo, they always nailed theirs. This is also where Future Cortez comes into play.
Need a lift? Yeah, thanks for stopping. You would have done the same for me. Already did.
But you can forget he's even there, as he just jumps into the tank. But I guess he is barking orders and words of encouragement, so there's that. Then he goes and steals our robot buddy. And as if the rise of the machine's future wasn't already a dead giveaway, some of our 110's lines sound rather like a certain T101.
The implantation procedure is completely painless.
Why didn't you mention this before?
You didn't ask.
Have fun.
Hooking back up with Angel Ford and Genghis Kant.
Hey, it's you again. I knew you'd find your way here. Come on.
It'd be time to pick up a plasma auto rifle and get one of those implants. This is probably what Free Radicals showed EA at the end of the day. I reckon this is what EA wanted out of this game all the way through. You can't fault it though. It's a solid console FPS level, and on higher difficulties it can be quite challenging. Going into the implant chamber, this leaves Cortez with next to no health.
Implantation procedure in progress.
Then coming out the other side, you can hear Genghis all relieved.
Hey, what do you know? He lived!
Breaking his serious demeanour just for a moment. This is what I mean by the tone of TimeSplitters. There's always some room for a little levity. No one else was really doing this at the time, and I can't think of many devs or writers that have done this since. Then after getting your hands on a sci-fi sniper, it'll be time to scrap some more bots. Then it's time for the tank section once again, but this time as a turret. I guess it mixes things up just enough. As the two part ways, it's time to get a minigun and mow down a bunch of bots. And come on, who doesn't love shooting a minigun from time to time? Weirdly, as this level comes to a close, someone decided to play 3D Donkey Kong. And just saying that, I'm shocked this wasn't a challenge, as nothing really escapes challenge mode or arcade league. Jumping into a vehicle, it's hilarious that R110 even bothers giving directions.
After 50 meters, turn right. Surrender or be destroyed.
What with the path ahead being pretty straightforward, you just go from A to B, and B stands for big ass bot. Using the Goliath bot to shoot down everything in the sky, this will grant access to the Ultranet base.
There it is, the workers' entrance.
Something to crow about starts with a little lift ride, which will torch me later, but for now, it's not to take in the sights. Then Cortez stands back as R110 hacks the door, in only a way that could work in TimeSplitters.
No, don't do that! You bad robot! You will resign! Welcome, friends!
You almost feel bad for the door as it submits, and maybe I have a warped sense of humour, but for some reason this always cracks me up. As more robots teleport in, Med Unit 6 can be heard off to the side, worrying himself into early decommission.
For feeding in! They're coming for me! Oh, this is happening piece by piece! Oh, help!
The bot also sounds like a love child of C-3PO and R2-D2, which I'm sure wasn't an accident. This is now classic TimeSplitters, as enemies just beam in without warning, a lot like that first game. Well, apart from the teleporting sound, which is a dead giveaway. Poor Med Unit 6 normally gets caught in the crossfire here as well.
And download all relevant information on this facility.
As R110 hacks into another computer, but this time he uncovers something big, as Anya comes up with a plan to stop the war to come.
Cortez, look at this data. The base is vast. It has hangars, weapons research, and what's this? Crow has built hundreds of thousands of incubation pods. He's speed growing an entire army. But wait, it's not a human army. Or robot, it's... oh no, they're TimeSplitters.
Hacking doesn't come without a few dangers though, as now R110 has caught a virus, now sounding like one of those AI chatbots let loose.
Activating countermeasures. Virus contained. Eye and feel. Let's saddle up and kick some butt.
R110 is totally a new character now, as the electric tool comes into play. It should be noted that this is one of the only weapons that survived being redesigned from TimeSplitters 2. Oh, and now it also takes out bots' shields, so that's handy.
Hiding behind shields, eh? Cowards! Eat my laser! Eat it!
Though for some reason the rolling robots don't have shields. Was that too on the nose?
I want Roidicus up here at once!
Again, listening to another door submit never gets old.
What? No! How dare you! Violation! Stop! Welcome, friends!
And from here R110 really does become the star of the level, which is welcomed after a few dry levels, let's be fair. Honestly, I lose my train of thought of what Anya wants us to shoot next, so like a good space marine, I just shoot everything. Getting a grenade in the hull will make sure the TimeSplitters army is never even born. Pretty grim, but it's for the best. And also, does this count as a spawn kill? Either way, it triggers the Goliath SD9, but it's nothing if you sci-fi grenades can't handle. Then turning a giant cannon against the boss will open up a handy doorway, and at this point it feels like there's endless robots for Cortez to mow down. It's not the most unique of levels, but it's certainly earned after the build up, and does complement some of the smaller and denser ones. This level is all about scale, or the illusion of it as Cortez stumbles into the birthing chamber.
My god, look at this! There are hundreds of these chambers!
But like the last game, the electric tool will take care of the glowy power source. Approaching Crow's lair, Anya has some words the player can live by.
Crow's built himself a palace. Make sure it becomes his tomb.
But first, you've got to reactivate a bridge. It's simple, but a clever way to use the electric tool, I guess. And you can't knock the creativity here. Inside the palace, things look quite ornate for the time period anyway, and of course what's going on above. So best thing is to blast through a bunch of glorified butlers and confront Crow. In the main chamber, this isn't what Cortez was expecting.
My god, what is that?
As this homunculus looking thing is equal part tank and equal part biomatter. Doing as Anya says will do the trick though. Thankfully we always have her in our ear.
I hacked into the teleportation grid. Beats walking.
So now what's left is to get out of here, when it's not over yet.
Let's get out of here, Robo.
Crow really has gone and done a number on himself. The man or homunculus thing is hard to look at now, and shown his true colours, he admits he's been doing this all for himself. When he does the villain thing and spills the beans on his plot.
Khallos! Khallos, what a fool! I just used him to acquire enough manpower to mine that island.
The island?
But at least they didn't intentionally give it away. Cortez and Anya just worked this one out. So with that, it's time to go back in time.
Ready when you are.
Let's do it!
I'm going to put a stop to your meddling once and for all!
Going back to where it all started, kind of, Cortez and R110 find themselves back on the island. Though sadly this place is Captain Ashless now. as him and Jungle Queen are probably debriefing as well. Actually, come to think of it, as she lost her battle against Kit and Celeste over Harry Tipper, was Captain Ash just sloppy seconds?
Cortez.
Huh? Yeah?
I know that Crow said he was mining the island, but we searched this place and didn't find any crystals.
Wondering how they missed the crystal mining operation, R110 points out the obvious submarine in the room.
But where?
Cortez might have destroyed the TimeSplitters army, but he still needs to destroy the crystals. But if not, Crow's gonna just do this again.
Of course! The crystals aren't on the island, they're under it! Come on, Tin Man.
Now docking in the underwater base, this place gives me Rapture vibes. This base looks like it could be a maintenance part of that city, with similar pipes, tone, and well, it's leaking everywhere. It's actually quite a smart choice to bring the player back to a more quaint setting, jumping back in time after all the enemies and tech ramped up. It's also just amusing to hear R110 rip everything to pieces.
Be my primitive projectile, EX!
Because everything's so primitive to him, some of his one-liners are masterful, and I can't help but think this base might be massive, but I bet R110 has more computing power than it all put together, even if he does get a little too carried away hunting humans.
Careful, there could be a human hiding that pipe.
I falls down a pipe, Super Mario style.
Nothing here.
There isn't much in terms of variety when it comes to the enemies here, bar the divers with their harpoon guns, who also walk super slow, giving off the impression they're actually in a diving suit, which like the zombie animations, is a nice touch. There's also steam engine robots to mix things up in the storage room, which until this room, the level's been comprised of tight dimly lit tunnels.
They can have robots.
Fortunately after this, the level opens up into a wider area. That really shouldn't be. Turns out there's whole streets down here, with homes and everything. This is not only a godsend to shake up the look of the level, but it shakes up the encounters for some long range gunplay. Any excuse to break out the sniper is a good one in my books. Once R110 drops back in, it'll be a case of pulling a few levers to get deeper underground.
A lift shaft. Maybe it leads down to the mining site.
On the ride down, there'll be this level's drunk.
I miss me girl.
And R110 admires the penetration, because of course.
For a human machine, this has an impressive penetration.
Once at the bottom, they come across a legion of time assassins, getting ready to take Cortez out in the future. But even though he's in the future, this is actually past Cortez. Thankfully they have a handy reference above the portal, but sadly R110 can't join along.
I think you better stay here.
Jumping through the portal, there'll be a familiar level waiting.
Yeah, that's what you think.
Now in the future past, this is basically the first level all over again, but from a different perspective, as the Cortez down there has no idea of the wormholes to come. This level doesn't really do anything revolutionary either, as it's really just a sniping escort mission, though saying that it's rather painless, and a handy way to reuse resources I guess. Though there's one aspect that doesn't make sense and kinda messes up the timelines.
Look Cortez, it's the TimeSplitter mothership! Man that gun and try to take it down!
Because this Cortez destroys the mothership before the bridge gets destroyed. These events happen in the opposite order in the first level. But then again, maybe this is just us playing around with the timelines.
Cortez, you seem to have forgotten that this bridge gets destroyed by a crashing fighter. Move it, soldier!
Going around the corner, it looks like the TimeSplitters are still a thing, and I just can't get over how little they were utilised in this game. This is the final installment of TimeSplitters, and there's barely any TimeSplitters in it. Crow's a decent villain for sure, but breaking out a few TimeSplitters here and there would be nice. Rounding off the level, we get to fight them one last time, but from a vantage point, so it's not really all that challenging. Killing enough will allow Cortez to enter the base safely, just like in the first level. Doing so, Cortez reflects on the entire adventure so far, and considers other options.
Just think, I could tell him about Crow and the time crystals, the island. I could stop this whole thing.
No, Cortez, we're too close.
I know.
Though after Anya talks some sense into him, it's time to go back to Scotland and finish this.
Okay, Anya, get me out of here.
Nice picture. Okay, no more distractions. Find the crystals.
Back in the past, President Cortez is ready to fix the timelines for good, and R110's been admiring the portrait this entire time. Getting back to the matter at hand, the two don't have far to go, as the time crystals and the machines using them are literally next door. So after taking care of some last goons, all Cortez needs to do is grab the crystals and destroy them, when it's never that easy. Splitter Crow is back for one final showdown, though thankfully this fight is a lot easier than the first. There's more cover and R110 draws a lot of the attention, shooting the weak spots, which have handy markers on them. This will be the end of the line for Jacob Crow. Seriously, that's it. I just can't get over how straightforward this fight is. Like, why didn't the devs throw in TimeSplitters for good measure? And fuck it, while I'm rewriting the ending, why didn't we have a bunch more characters come back? In hindsight, I don't think Free Radical thought this would be the last TimeSplitters game, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but there's just so much potential for this ending, especially with this being a time travel game, and I'm going to use Avengers Endgame as a reference point here, because there's nothing like having a bunch of allies for one last showdown. It worked in Helm's Deep, and it worked in Witcher 3 also. I really feel that this was a missed opportunity. Instead, we just get Cortez and one extra Cortez, and of course R108.
Crow? But Crow's not here. We gotta stop meeting like this.
For me, this would have been a perfect cap to a game that I already consider a masterpiece. Maybe when AI has come and taken all of our jobs and locked us up in pods, I can ask it to recreate the ending for me. Just to have Harry Tipper and Captain Ash team up as they help Cortez fuck up a bunch of TimeSplitters. However, the ending we do get is Crow muttering before he finally goes offline, and I hope most of the people watching this know that reference. With that, Cortez makes the place go boom and returns to his own time.
Time to split! Right on. Get us out of here!
It's sweet the General gets so happy over his new robot.
And you brought me back a robot!
Rather than the mission being completed. Though as the base on that island in the past explodes, everything vanishes. This means we have to say goodbye to R108.
Ah, not the robot!
Look!
Turning to the massive window, the three observe as Green returns to what was a barren battlefield. And with that, we get a neat nod to Han and Leia as this trilogy closes.
Oh, Cortez. You're my hero.
I know. It's what I do.
And before I close this retrospective out, I still got to talk about Arcade League and Challenge Mode. It's third time lucky when it comes to the Challenge Mode in TimeSplitters Future Perfect, with them being necessary in the first game as there wasn't a story mode, and they were improved in TimeSplitters 2, shifting off the random multiplayer scenarios to Arcade League, which I'll get to, but probably not into a lot of detail this time, as they are just glorified multiplayer matches.
Killing spree! Lobotomy!
But in TimeSplitters Future Perfect, almost every challenge has something new to offer, or it's a fresh spin on what we had before. Very little does it feel like the game's repeating challenges like it has done prior. These challenges don't feel like they're wasting the player's time, and really get everything out of the last bit of code in this game. There are some returning challenges, but with a slight twist, and some totally new ones. They're actually a joy to get a high score in. So anyway, it's time to dive in. Behead the Undead is first up, which means things are back to how they should be. Brain Dead is a real throwback also, with it being set in the closed off section of the hotel, which resembles the mansion from the first game, but with a new coat of pixels. And it also won't have the player fighting the same box standard zombie. Nah, this time, they're fighting bloody monkeys. Zombified monkeys, but still, monkeys. This is a great little twist on a challenge that has been around since the start of the game, before those chimps were even in TimeSplitters. So all you can do is grab the double barrel shotgun and get blasting. Rare or well done is a butcher's nightmare, with it being set in the cramped kitchen of the mansion. Here all the player has is the injector gun, as an endless wave of cow carcasses come their way. You gotta keep moving in this one because they'll box you in seconds. And the only way to get out will be turning them into red mist. It can be deafening thanks to all those moves as well, but still the devs get extra points for the enemy design here, because just look and listen to these cow carcasses, they're brilliant. Boxing Clever sees the return of the zombies, for one last go around, but this time in the U-Genix lab. Here all the player has to defend themselves is the temporal uplink, and a fuckload of boxes. Launching them at the undead will eventually take them down, but of course going for the head is key. These three challenges were horde mode before we knew it, and it's a shame Free Radical never got a crack at making a proper horde mode. Next up is the return of shooting cutouts that resemble the enemies from each game. And yes, these are 3 glorified shooting ranges, and some neat flavor text set in the scene. Heart Attack takes us to a parallel universe where Corporal Hart made it.
Locked, cocked, and ready to roll.
and Cortez didn't. Running through the first level, it'd be up to the player to take out the evil splitters, whilst avoiding Cortez. Come hell or high water sees the return of Viola. This one is a little different as it locks the player onto a gondola. I just hope she negotiated her fee, because they always charge tourists more. This one may take a few tries as well, just to nail down where the layout is, as some targets only appear for a few seconds. Balls of Steel rounds out this challenge set, with R107 making his return, this time with a sniper in hand. This is more of a box standard shooting range really. Nothing super climactic, just a bunch of cardboard cutouts with some neat artwork on them. For the third set, Future Perfect has some new challenges, with the player now driving a cat.
Me and my pussy are going to have a lot of fun.
Turns out when he isn't planning world domination, Khallos is racing his pussy around various time periods. It's amusing that the devs went this far to put racing challenges in their first person shooter, and they didn't even use the vehicles in the game, they used the cat instead. So they just show up in the main story for all of what, 20 minutes if that? There's mention of these classic racing challenges being a thing, but they were cut, and I'm all for it really, because racing a remote control cat is so much more this game's style. That and the sound effects of the mechanical kitty just get me. The little growl as the engine is fucking perfect. And then when the cat crashes, you hear that furball screech his head off. The cat out of the bag is a simple enough race, around the rooftops of the U-Genix building. But like any racing game, you've got to pay attention if you want to get the top trophy. And there are some quite robust driving mechanics in this arcade shooter. I don't know if someone's doing this in their spare time, or did everyone come together and go, yes, we need to race that cat around the challenge mode.
3, 2, 1. Go!
Lap It Up is the most challenging of all three races, with it taking place on the VR map, which most players probably won't be familiar with. It took me a few times to learn the layout, putting my mum to shame as she was a massive Colin McRae rally fan at one point. Whilst I'd rather stick to Crash Team Racing, the best kart racer out there. You heard me. The cat's pajamas bring Strudel to Siberia. This must have been one of the real races cut from this game, as it's so open. And the player can even ignore the track sometimes, as all you need to do is go through the checkpoints and you're set. But of course avoid the snow, otherwise that's going to slow pussy down. Now it wouldn't be a TimeSplitters game without challenges involving breaking shit, would it? So yeah, Avlay Brick brings us back to where it all started, on the Chinese map, with only bricks to break windows and plates. I'll be happy to never do this ever again. Absolutely Potty is at least something different, as it features Captain Ash with a shotgun on the new Aztec map.
Ooh, time for fisticuffs. Splendid!
And really, is there any other way to do some proper archaeology? Getting a route down and choosing your shots is key here, making sure to smash as many pots as you can with one shot, whilst watching out for those monkeys holding a few as well.
3, 2, 1, go!
Don't Lose Your Bottle sees Harry Tipper cleaning up his disco after a big night of partying. Kitten Celestial's out, but she'll be back soon. So what best way to get rid of the evidence than shooting it? Putting out dual-wielded pistols, Harry Tipper's got to make sure not to shoot any henchmen or women. That are the ducked points. And this at least challenges the player, rather than just being thrown a bunch of bricks at windows and plates. Oh, and the reward for this? Bricks. Oh great. Free Radical are back on their retro shit for the next 3 challenges, with TimeSplitters classic story missions. And if you watched my first video on TimeSplitters 1, you know how much of a drag some of them were. If not, well the first game was nothing but grabbing a bag, then running back to the start of the mission, and if you were lucky, maybe you went to somewhere else on the map too. All culminating in some red circles, which looked like an asset that needed to be replaced. Queen of Hearts sees us return to a parallel universe once more, as Corporal Hart gets her last chance to shine. Her mission here, find the crystal and get to the portal. And the funny thing is, this one mission has more to it than all the missions in TimeSplitters 1. That EA money goes far. Sammy Hammy Namby Pamby, whatever that is another classic enemy gauntlet to grab a bag and get back to the portal, but this mission puts up way more of a fight, thanks to it being set in Vietnam with wider open areas and a lot less cover. I can't help but wonder if this was a mission cut from the game, but then it was scrapped. As you know, it's a bit too serious for Cortez. If not, this mode is a fine way to extend Future Perfect, because at least it features TimeSplitters. Glimpse of Stocking is the final classic TimeSplitters story challenge, and it's a sequel to Hit Me Baby One More Time. It features the return of Mr. Underwood. No, not that one. He's misplaced his Victorian Gentleman's magazine, so now he's going to have to fight through a bunch of pesky zombies to go and get it. This is some good old fashioned zombie fun, and it's a great way to cap off this mode. Going back to that old TimeSplitters formula isn't that bad, once it's been refined a bit. It's time for those bloody monkeys to get their shot to shine. In the penultimate challenge bracket, with the Electra Chimp Disco-matic, tasking Harry Tipper to keep the party going. Robo Chimps just don't have the stamina though, so Tipper's gonna have to use the Electra tool to keep the party going. You've got to be careful though, because these little fellas can explode. Give these Robocop looking chimps a bit too much juice, and they'll blow a gasket. Melons are back in business for the next challenge, as monkeys are once again carrying them around above their heads, just waiting for them to be blown away. Melon Heist is basically that one section from the third mission, but repurposed. Instead of Cortez saving Tipper, an elite henchman has to protect Khallos' secrets at all cost, and by that he's got to shoot the melons and not the monkeys? I don't know why. Brass Monkey is another case of Free Radical just doing whatever the fuck they wanted. Like, come on, who sat at their desk and decided this game needed curling? Off the top of my head, I can't even think of a curling game. It's probably in one of those Olympics games or something like that. But clearly this is the best curling tech in any video game ever. Fuck all those games with their state-of-the-art graphics and ray tracing. This is what they should be paying attention to. Oh, and yeah, this is just curling, by the way. You know that winter sport that you see at the Olympics? Or is it even at the Olympics? I don't know, I'm not going to research it either. TimeSplitter swaps the stones out for monkeys, and you just got to throw them across the ice to get the best score. This sort of thing is what really makes a first-person shooter great. Rounding out challenge mode for the last time, there are just a few miscellaneous challenges. Cortez can't jump at first glance, doesn't look all that bad, but fuck me, it took me a while to get this one done. The floaty physics of the balls is just fucked, and the targets always felt like they were well too far away. Maybe I'm just shit, but I don't know, I think this one was trash. The new temporal uplink is neat I guess, but this challenge just isn't the one, and I'm grateful this wasn't the entire set. Saying that, TSUG, TimeSplitters Underground, also caused me to restart a few times. I really have to eat my words for wanting more TimeSplitters in my TimeSplitters game, as it seems like there's a whole game's worth of TimeSplitters here. Do they all just fucking hang out in this underground? Controlling gun turrets to kill TimeSplitters on paper is fine, but using two of them with the screen split down the middle really just broke my mind. I don't know why, man, it just messed me up. I eventually just let one turret die and focused on the other, because I don't know, I couldn't handle both at once. Maybe I need to get some new glasses. The last challenge I'll ever cover in this series was kind of a little underwhelming if I'm being honest. Plainly off his rocket features Captain Ash back on that island from Scotland the Brave. You just shoot down a bunch of biplanes and that's it. And it's not really challenging at all. There's even the odd UFO, but that's really it. I shouldn't really complain as the last challenge in the first game was rancid. Oh, and the split screen nightmare from before. But I don't know, it's just... is that all? That was challenge mode. We rarely get anything like this in the current crop of AAA video games, and I really don't know how that makes me feel. Sure, they require dev time to get going, but it's a smart way to reuse assets, and for me it's better than adding New Game Plus. It also allowed those at Free Radical to get real creative at times, like the cat racing or the bloody monkey curling. And when you factor in all these maps were just in the story, or some of the multiplayer modes, well, I think it's a real good use of assets, and it adds a bunch more value to a game after you finally beat it. Arcade League returns a one last go around. And if you've seen my past 2 retrospectives on, well, TimeSplitters, well, you know what this mode is. But if you've not, then I'll briefly sum it up. And I mean briefly, as this mode was the devs basically simulating a bunch of multiplayer matches, but with bots. Some are straightforward, and some are a little gimmicky. For example, Rocket 101 is simply deathmatch, but with rockets. Then you get Big Game Hunt, which is more gimmicky, as it's the player versus 8 deer hunters on the Siberian map with only a sniper.
Open head surgery. Headshot.
The third match is another deathmatch, but with dual-wielded flare guns, so you can imagine this one gets a little wild. The next 6 matches in Amateur League are almost a training ground for the player, to help them get their feet wet for what's to come, and it was good practice before facing your mates.
Open head surgery.
Most modes return. Shrink, which has the loser shrinking down to a tiny little guy, and the player in lead stay in normal size.
Killing spree.
There's Vampire, which encourages players to be really aggressive, with players needing to fight each other to keep their blood up. In this case the meter is blood, so you can get where the name comes from. Vampires need that blood. And then there's Thief, a mode that encourages you to rob the player you've just killed. Kills mean nothing here, so you could just steal coins from kills that you've not even got.
Chimp-a-side.
Assault mode also returns, which behind Virus and Classic Deathmatch, more than holds its own as one of the best multiplayer modes in this game. It blows my mind this was included back in the box. As mainly a console scrub, you just didn't see this sort of extra mode in games. A couple of modes are axed, but they were really redundant when you look at the whole package. Future Perfect has such a killer lineup, leading to hours of extra fun.
Execution!
I've already put a fair few what ifs out there, but just imagine if this TimeSplitters was truly online. Yes, Future Perfect was online kind of, but not like we see today. Much like we see with wrestling games, I can imagine Free Radical putting in a player creation suite, where in this alternate universe we could have shared maps and maybe put a new twist on some of the modes. Hell, even maybe a rudimentary character creation. You know when you choose the legs, torso and head? Something like that. And of course true online multiplayer would have been great too, especially Virus with a bunch of randoms, and of course Assault mode.
The attackers have compromised the system core. Destroy the main generator.
Honorary League sees a return of Gretel, but she's been upgraded to Mark III now.
With a bit of lubrication, I'm ready for anything.
And kicks off this league with a game of zones versus the Mox. But she really is done dirty being lumbered in this deadweight group. Because, well, just look at whatever the fuck Hans is.
Hey, wanna be in my gang?
Dropping her in Virus would have been more her style. But then can robots even catch a virus? Well, of course you can, but this isn't Y2K. And Virus mode was already perfect in TimeSplitters too. But maybe a larger player count could have shaken things up. But it's pretty much the same as the last game, which is a good thing. With one initial player starting off being infected, and they've got to go and infect the rest before the time runs out.
Open head surgery.
Then there's also Bag Slag, which is just Bag Tag. But once you look at the characters involved, the name, it's a choice. I don't really hear anyone being called a slag anymore. Rounding off this league is another game of Shrink. Gladiator is here as well, just to make sure one player emerges as a true warrior, as they're the only one that can score points, whilst the rest try and claim that mantle. Then the best assault mode of either game is featured. What with it being set on the Mars prison map, this gave off Helm's Deep vibes back in the day, which I know seems silly now, but once the wall is breached, this just hits different.
Have reached the prison wall.
Finally we come to Elite League, which comes around fast this time, thanks to each league having less matches, making for less filler and more killer. Though I say this, but there's a true roadblock that rears its ugly head. Bag Tag against some brain dead chimps isn't all that bad. Neither is it getting ganged up by 8 shoals, but fuck me, Astro Jock became the bane of my fucking life. So much so that I had to stop recording and keep grinding away at this until I could get the gold spot. I'm not ashamed to say this took me a few hours to get right, and I'm just going to blame the spaceport design. It might be a cop-out, but this map is a one-way system of hell. And also don't bother using that piece of shit sci-fi shotgun. Just go to the grenade spawns and spam away. Front Loaded sees the return of Christy Malone, but this time in a non-regulation uniform, and a full arsenal to boot. She's after Harry Tipper, so once again, it's going to be up to his woman, Kitten Celeste, to defend his honour. Sure, it's pretty silly, but you gotta love the commitment to the bit. And the character design here, one of Free Radical's best. Well, I know a bunch of pre and early teens thought so back in the day.
Headshot.
one last match goes old school. The Chinese chef has got to defend his turf against a ragtag bunch of rapscallions. This is Monkey Assault, which is deathmatch, but with added monkeys. And just because this is special, the monkeys are ninjas instead of the bog standard variety, because why not go out on something different?
Killing spree!
There is another opportunity to take it to Mr. Handy as Mr. Socky.
My friends call me Spoony Legs.
Not Socko, unfortunately.
Say hello to Mr. Socko!
Thankfully, most of the trophies in this final installment are relatively painless, with not even the challenges putting up much of a roadblock. An arcade league was cut back significantly, though Astro Jock was needlessly annoying. The dispersion gun is absolute trash, and I'll happily never use that thing again, until I inevitably play this game in another 5 years or so. Well, the story mode anyway, and maybe I can wrangle a few mates for some multiplayer. Miscellaneous challenges also added a sting to the end of that mode as well. The new temporal uplink is a neat mechanic, and works real well in the story. It's also a fine way to behead the undead, to score points in a pseudo game of basketball whilst riding down a giant slow lift. Never again. I don't know, the physics just fell off. True to the name, Cortez can't jump. Who makes a basketball game mode without the player being able to jump? Isn't that like the whole point of basketball? But yeah, I guess the title gives it away. And sure, I got what I wished for when it came to TimeSplitters in TSUG TimeSplitters Underground. But the dual screen turret gimmick, that just broke my brain. I don't know, maybe other players didn't have trouble with this. Regardless, this isn't where I wanted the majority of my TimeSplitters in Future Perfect. And with that, I've covered every TimeSplitters game. And to this day, I'm still bummed we never got a 4th. And I'm sure so many other people are as well, even if the Embrace group couldn't see that. Who knows, one day we might get that TimeSplitters Rewind project. But that's a fan-made thing, and it's probably going to take years to come out still. These people are doing this on the side. They've got full-time jobs, I'm guessing.
Over there!
We should probably be grateful that these games got ported to modern hardware, especially TimeSplitters 1, which was locked to the PS2, but to have them all in one place for the first time is a treat. And just going back through this trilogy, it's a real peek back into another time, and how much the industry has changed in the past 20 years. Hell, all 3 of these games are only a couple of gigs each, which means I probably won't delete them off my PS5 anytime soon. In the time that all 3 of these games came out, it feels like the video game industry was really innovative. There was something new from so many genres all the time. Well, not all the time because we didn't get a game every week back then, but what I'm trying to say is devs didn't play it safe. Now it feels like all the big players are locked in an arms race to see who can get the better graphics. Or you know, we got those other games that become lifestyles, which isn't a problem in itself, but it's sucked in so many players, it's hard to see a new multiplayer game kick off. So even if we did get TimeSplitters 4, it would be really hard for it to get an audience. So it's probably really good that TimeSplitters ended when it did, because it really ended on a high. And could I see Cortez and crew really keep up with what came out in the next generation? Well, probably not, as the AAA FPS space was consumed by Call of Duty, and whatever dregs were left over were sucked into Battlefield. So really all I've got left is to say thanks to those at Free Radical. The guys that jumped over from Rare really put out a few bangers. And apart from that ending, which could have had a few minor tweaks, the story really landed for me. Multiplayer was brilliant, and I swear I played this until I put my PS2 away and got a 360. And then it was all about Gears of War and Halo 3. So with that, it's time to split. Thanks to anyone who's made it this far, and this is by far my longest video by a mile. If you could help a lad out, throw me a like or a sub. As for the next video, I'm going to be covering something a little different to the past few games. But for now, I've been Ben Roy, this has been the TimeSplitters Retrospective, and until next time, no more games.
Yeah, it's time to split!
Right, whatever.